When you think about biodiversity, maybe the last thing on your mind is your bedroom closet or your kitchen cabinet. But arranging and sorting things indoors is a great way to appreciate diversity of life outdoors. Just as there are many ways to organize things at home, there are also many ways to organize things in the world outside. Hello, I'm Dr. Emily Dupo at Trip Ko Ang Siyensya. There are three different levels or hierarchies of biodiversity. You can think of them as boxes or drawers that fit inside each other. There's genetic biodiversity. There's species biodiversity. And there's ecosystem biodiversity. Let's start by looking at the biggest box first, ecosystem biodiversity. An ecosystem is a geographic area where living organisms interact with each other and their environment. We're surrounded by a variety of ecosystems, such as forests, mangroves, reefs, and rivers. But each ecosystem depends on other ecosystems to help sustain their own environments. A river, for example, might depend on forests to maintain its supply of fresh water, and mangroves depend on the sea to replenish their nutrients. Ecosystem biodiversity is important because it helps a wide variety of animals and plants to survive across a wide range of environments. If you take away an ecosystem, all the organisms in it may disappear or move elsewhere. Either way, this could disrupt other ecosystems nearby. Speaking of organisms within ecosystems, this is where our next box in our hierarchy comes into play. Species biodiversity. When we talk about species biodiversity, we're talking about all the kinds of animals and plants within a community. All these living things depend on each other for survival, directly or indirectly, in food chains or food webs. A food chain is a straightforward series of organisms that feed on one another. For example, plants are eaten by insects, which are eaten by rodents, which are eaten by snakes, which are eaten by the Philippine eagle. But of course, many animals don't just eat one kind of food. An eagle can also eat rodents, while rodents can also eat plants. And when an eagle, snake, or rodent dies, they provide nutrients for plants. So as we can see, there are many interconnected food chains which we call a food web. The more species there are, the more complex these webs can become. Now, can you imagine that if any of the links in these chains is lost, it can cause ecosystem to become imbalanced. The loss of one species may result in other species dying out because of a lack of food. That's what we're seeing with bee populations around the world right now, as human activity and global warming have cut into their numbers. Many plants are dying out because there are no bees to pollinate them. That's why it's very important to maintain species biodiversity. Finally, there's one more level of biodiversity we haven't looked at yet, and that's genetic biodiversity. You see, even with the same species, every member is slightly different from the others. Just like dogs are all just one species, but no two of them are exactly alike. This is because of the differences in the genes inside our cells. In all living things, the genetic differences within species help them adapt to their environment. If members of the species are too much like each other, like in farms, it's more difficult for them to adapt and survive to new conditions. This rarely happens in species in the wild. It's diversity that helps them survive. All of these levels of diversity, genetic, species, and ecosystem, are connected with each other. If we take the time to look at what's inside each of them, we can learn to appreciate the richness and vastness of life on Earth. That's something to think about the next time you tidy up at home.